Prior to the COVID-19 crisis in the world, we were blessed to have Father Ben St. Paul join us for Mass and preach to us a mission about discipleship in Lent. In his message, he mentioned over and over again, God wants to do something new in our lives. As I have said countless times, never could I imagine what would happen next. The next weekend there would be no public celebration of Holy Mass. Then there would be no public celebration of daily Mass. And finally, our church would have to close its doors for 3 months. What was it that God wanted to do new in our lives? Well, he offers us a new normal. Now, I'm guilty of using that phrase very flippantly without actually thinking, and sometimes with a negative connotation. But a new normal doesn't have to be a bad thing. A new normal can actually help us grow in holiness and transform the community in which we live. To understand how a new normal can be beneficial for us personally and for our community, Father Ben, being unknowingly prophetic, structured his mission with nights that first had God coming to us as he brought the monstrance that had the Blessed Sacrament exposed from the altar to the pews. On the second night, our response is to go to God, and had us go up to the altar from the pews to the altar, to bring our thoughts, our feelings, and our desires to God. On the last night, following Mass, the encounter with God allows us to bring God to our neighbor, as we had held a small social in the parish hall. At the core of this movement that happens in our spiritual life, that God comes to us, we respond and go to God, and from that encounter we go to our neighbor, is a vital organ, the heart. As blood flows to the heart, is purified in the heart, and then goes back out to the arteries, and then returns through the veins, being purified in the heart, so is our life in Jesus Christ. And this is the heart then is the place of that encounter with God, because he wants to give us a new heart. He wants to give us a new spirit, and that will consequently transform our lives and our community, one soul at a time. As in our readings this weekend, if we put them into the context of the liturgy, we actually find that they illuminate and help us understand this movement of the heart. As Zechariah prophesied, God, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, will come to his people with humility, and you will have victory over sin and the consequences of sin, death. How does he do this? Through the abasement and obedience of his only begotten Son, who raises up a fallen world by entering the world first as a vulnerable infant, and then entering Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, which this reading prophesied, knowing that he would die on a cross and then rise from the dead. But he doesn't stop there. God still comes to us, and he stays with us in the church through the Blessed Sacrament. And by God coming to his people in the flesh, in the person of Jesus Christ, God now has a heart. And guess what he does? He invites us to come to him, to come out of darkness into his marvelous light, to come to him, all of us who find life burdensome and weary, and to find rest in his heart. God comes to us, and he invites us to know the love and life that he offers from his heart, poured out for us. A life that is abundant, a love that is personal, which gives holy joy in all life's trials and troubles. We receive the heart of Jesus in the most blessed sacrament, and we praise and adore him as he stays with us in the tabernacles of the world. However, in the most sacred heart of Jesus, where we encounter the flames of love and the life that he offers and pours out for us, we also see the cost, the cross, the lance, and the thorns. God comes to us, his people, and he invites us to go to him. He gathers us to himself. But we too have to pay the price, the cost of discipleship. And here we can place those 3 months of no public celebration of Mass because we had to suffer, because the lay faithful could not receive the Eucharist. They could not receive the sacraments in a way that they were customarily used to. But God was still doing something new by making us aware that he is present in our families, that his love and his life is present in our homes, the domestic church. And hopefully throughout these 3 months, we were able to form good habits that will only be elevated when we would receive Holy Communion at Mass. It is in these 3 months and the formation of those good habits that we begin to understand what St. Paul is explaining to the nascent church in Rome. To put away those areas of our life that lead to sin and death, and to live according to the Spirit of God that leads to life and life in abundance. God comes to us, and we go to God, and from that encounter we share the life and love that we have received to our neighbor as his disciples. The last words of Mass is to go in peace, go forth the Mass is ended, go and glorify the Lord by your life. Our life in Christ is not complete without that service and love of our neighbor. We do this by sharing the time, the talent, and the treasures that we have freely received from God, that he has graciously poured upon us, and we generously give back to the world, in our community, and to our neighbor. God is doing something new in our lives. God is doing something new in our community. He is bringing new people into the church. He's having new people step into roles that help us keep our church doors open. He's bringing people to share their talent and treasures in ways that I could not imagine and have really just blown my mind away. And for this, we praise and bless God, for he is ever faithful. And for this, we give thanks to the Father, the Lord of heaven and earth, for such was his gracious will, to give us this time, so that we might serve him and worship him as a community together.